Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today I am so excited to share these two Spring Gnomes Slimline cards with you, featuring components from the Simon Says Stamp Spring Gnomes Limited Edition card kit. So this card kit has all kinds of gnome related type of products. This was very highly requested from Simon Says Stamp, and so they have come up with this awesome limited edition card kit to share with everyone. I am going to start by doing some masking of images on this slimline card base. We are using some Hero Arts slimline infinity dies. This is their slimline rectangle and bookmark infinity die collection. So lots and lots of slimline type rectangles, perfect for all of your slimline style cards. What I'm going to do is stamp anything that's going to be in the foreground at the front of the card, so that I'm starting over on the right and I'll work my way over to the left, is going to be stamped first. I'm using some Copic marker friendly ink. I'm using the Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink for that. I'm stamping my image, stamping the mask, fussy cutting the mask, placing it over the original stamped image, and then moving on to each additional image. The masking took a while. I love the look of a masked card. I will tell you that had I had the coordinating dies, and there are coordinating dies for the Spring Gnomes stamp set, so if you want to pick those up when you pick up the kit, I think that would be awesome. If I'd had them, I probably wouldn't have done the masking, just simply because these images are really, really detailed. Now, you could definitely stamp them on another piece of paper and cut around them instead of doing all of this masking. I just prefer the masked look for the most part. I'm even going to mask all of those letters. That being said, I know I have said many times on my channel that masking is not my favorite, and it's not, but I really love how this card turned out. It is worth it. It just is definitely a lot of work. I know I always get comments that for cards that take this much detail that, you know, hopefully you're sending it to someone who's going to appreciate it. And that's always my wish as well. But the creativity and the creating of the cards is what brings me so much joy. And so I just kind of concentrate on that, and, you know, hopefully this card will bring a smile to someone's face, whether they hold on to it or not. Either way, I love the gnomes and I think they're really fun, but just keep in mind that if you want to create something similar and you don't want to do all of the masking, I would just recommend picking up the coordinating dies, because you could do everything you're going to see after the masking is all done by just simply stamping your images on a separate piece of paper, coloring, die cutting, and then popping them on the scene. So just trimming it all out now. You can see I'm cutting all of the masks. I will tell you, so for this tulips image, I actually only masked like the big leaves in the grass down here at the bottom, and I cut the mask pretty close to the bottom of the image because we're going to be inking the grass along the ground, which I'll show you here in just a second. And then the individual tulips were trimmed separately, and then I masked the rest of the images, all the letters and the butterfly and things. So I have taped down my panel, and then I am taping down the largest slimline masks stencil. And you're getting a full-size rustic wilderness stamp pad in the kit. However, I have my mini one here, so I'm just going to go ahead and use it instead. It's already open. And I'm using one of the new domed foam ink blending little foams on the end of my ink blending tool. Gosh, I'm sorry, I can't talk. And this is the newest foams from Tim Holtz, and I loved the domed shape. We're simply just adding some green along the bottom edge. So what I'm doing here is I masked everything, and now I'm creating a very simple little background that makes it look like it's matted. This is the whole reason that I masked everything, is because I wanted to add this decorative type of background and this ink blended background without inking over the top of my stamped images. I'm taking some Speckled Egg Distress ink now, and again I have another foam here on the end of my ink blending tool that I am adding the ink to the sky. And I'm trying to work kind of nice and slow, just in case any of the areas of my masking paper roll up a bit or anything like that. I just want to make sure that I'm not getting the ink on any of these images. I did not color them first, and that is on purpose. In the event that I messed up anything here in the background, I wanted to be able to pull the mask off and reuse it if I had to restamp this background. And I didn't want to do all the coloring and then potentially mess up the background and have to start from scratch. So that's kind of my thinking here. Next, in the kit, you're also getting this 4x9 Bitty Florals stencil. And I'm doing something a little different for my background, where I'm now going to take some broken china ink. I did Speckled Egg for the sky, and we're actually adding this floral and leaf pattern to the sky. This is something I would do if I was using pattern paper for the background. I don't worry always that it has to be, you know, clouds or actual realistic type of card. I really just like this little pattern. I think it adds so much interest to the background, and I'm more pouncing the color on than rather blending it. I think that works a little bit better for the detailed stencil. I don't want to accidentally move it or anything like that. And I'm just gradually, as I get down towards the grass, not inking, so it kind of fades out. And it's so pretty in real life. I love how it turns out. I know it looks a little funky here with my masks on, but let's go ahead and remove the masking stencil and our Bitty Floral stencil, and then some fine tip tweezers come in so handy to help lift up the mask and move it out of the way. I'm again being pretty careful removing the masks for the most part, so that again, if I would need to reuse them, if I want to reuse them, maybe for another card, I could do that. And I think everything goes pretty well till we get to the gnome with the wheelbarrow full of tulips, but that's okay. We're just going to pull all of this off. And isn't that sky just kind of fun? Once we've colored everything in, I really think it showcases the bright colors we're going to use to color in our cute little scene so well. Got one more little stencil here to move, and there we go. And now it's time to color. Coloring for sure is what took the longest with this. I have left the coloring for both cards in this video. That's why probably it's so long. I have sped it up quite a lot. I'm trying, especially on this first card, I started with one image and just kind of worked my way across the panel, so that hopefully, and then just kind of listed the colors for each image to keep it straight. As always, you can find the information as far as colors and things go on my blog if you want something that you can either like copy and paste and print out, or can follow a little bit more easily and doesn't go by on the screen quite so quickly. A little G24 and 28 for the grass. Then the underneath of the mushroom and the spots are YR30, 31, and 23. And the top of our mushroom is R30, 32, and 35. The stem of the mushroom will be E55 and E57. And we're going to just pop that little bit of color there, blend it out. So it's kind of a peachy red top. This is one of my favorite color combinations that I use quite often. go back over a couple little areas on the top. And we will move on to the next image, but we are going to color in the G on the word GNOMIE with the same peachy pink colors. Each letter is going to be a different color. It's going to be rainbow order, so like all the colors of the rainbow will be represented somewhere in this panel. For the leaves of the tulips, we are doing YG 21 and 17. For blades of grass, we're doing G24 and 28. So I used a couple of different color combinations for the greens for a little bit added interest there. And off camera and at the very end, and you'll see this in the final shots of the card at the beginning of this video and also at the end of the video, you'll notice I added additional greens, kind of green shadows near the base of all these images to just kind of help ground them a little bit. And that was with G24 and 28. The tops of the tulips are Y11, 18, and a little YR23. And now I colored in the gnome's noses with E11 and 13. This gnome's hat, part of the hat anyway, and the letter N with R34 and 46. The beard we're coloring in with warm gray 0, 0, 1, and 3. Kind of did a little blend, and then I can go back in here in a second and add a little more detail with warm gray 3 or 1 if I want to. I've also colored in the O for GNOMIE with Y11 and 18. A little YG 21 and 17 for the bright limey green M, and then B01 and 05 for the letter I. We're also going to take those same blue colors and add a little color to this gnome's outfit. And that's going to be again B01 and 5 with a little B18 for the cuffs, and then we're going to create a design on his outfit. Some red gloves with R35 and 46. And then some dark blue cuffs, and that's where our B18 comes in. And then I'm going to just very lightly with the tip of my marker, and I am using the brush tip, so I'm going really carefully, drawing in a little plaid pattern to give a little texture and interest. Next, we've got our butterflies, and there's this cute one sitting on the brim of his hat, and then the one he's holding, and I stamped an individual butterfly as well. Those are all going to be colored with B60, 63, and 66 with a little N9 for the bodies of the butterflies. So all kind of this really pretty lavender. In addition, we're going to use B63 and 66 for the letter E in GNOMIE to finish that off. Now I hope you're being able to see like my vision for this background by using that stencil that comes in the kit, and just the added interest and fun, whimsical touch it adds to the sky. I really love how that turned out. Next up, we have our wheelbarrow that we are going to color with some reds, grays, and browns. I did add some little highlights. So I guess I took a small coloring break to go in, add little highlights here and there. I haven't colored the brim of our gnome's hat either. I really kind of went back and forth. This was what my break was about, I'm pretty sure, with the white pen, trying to decide what color I wanted to color it. So I just grabbed a shade lighter, B000, to make it a little lighter than his outfit, so kind of sticking with the blue and red theme. Now our wheelbarrow with our 35 and 46. We're going to use in 5 and 9 for the wheel, and then around the top and also the legs. And then we'll do, I wanted it to look like wooden handles, so that's E55 and 57. We're going to go back with our YG21 and 17 for the leaves for the tulips. I also stuck to all yellow tulips today, just trying to create that consistency throughout. I know we've got the rainbow going in the GNOMIE, and then we have lots of colors throughout the card design. And so I really felt like I just really like the big, bold yellow. I love yellow tulips anyway. And so I kind of just went with that. I even added in a little G28 to darken up a few areas in that greenery. Here's my N9. And we'll add in a little N5. It's coming to life. I just love watching it come to life. And then there was a little bit of bleeding into the center part of my wheel, and I simply took a white pen to clean that up. A little Y11 and then Y19. I think I've been saying Y18. I've been using Y19. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm pretty sure I listed the right color on the screen. I'm just saying the wrong thing. Adding in that darker color. Look how pretty, and I love the yellow pops against the blue. Let's color in our final mushroom, all the same colors as the first one. Again, that just kind of bookends the design and the scene that we've built on our card, plus it gives us a nice variety throughout. And then we're going to color in the rest of the gnome here, or the final gnome, I guess I should say. And we're going to give him a blue hat, darker blue brim and pom-pom, and a yellow outfit with a red cuff. So that's really the only thing different. All colors you've seen already, nothing crazy and new, just kind of switching around what colors we're going to use to keep it interesting. So all bright and bold. Even though the hat is blue and the sky is blue, I like that these blues are nice and deep and dark, and they really pop. Especially pulling in the blue, or yeah, blue, it is blue, blue 18, the B18 marker. It helps, I think, a lot in just deepening and darkening everything. So, so pretty. I really like these blue colors. All the marker colors you're seeing today as well, anywhere throughout this, are some of my most often and favorite used colors. I do get asked that a lot. I tend to use the same colors over and over. I don't branch out a ton. I usually mention it when I do, simply because it is so unusual for me. And I stick to a lot of the same color combinations no matter what I'm coloring. We're going to deepen and darken up his outfit, and then I even took the tip of my marker and made some polka dots to give his outfit a little bit more interest too. We'll let the markers dry a little bit, and then we'll come back and add that. So our panel is pretty much done at this point. I do want to stamp the rest of my sentiment from the Spring Gnomes stamp set. So we're going to stamp the word hello right in front of the word GNOMIE using black ink. We're going to want to attach this whole panel to a slimline card base. I love the card bases from Simon Says Stamp. And I am using one of the Misty tools, to little clear rulers, to help line up my word gnome, or pardon me, hello, with the word GNOMIE. And I've stamped that in black. Now to finish off our sentiment, we're actually going to take a sentiment strip included in the kit. So you're getting several sheets of these sentiment strips, all gnome themed, and you're going to get two in black and two different ones in black, and then the same two sheets but only with a white background and black text. If you love the look, keep in mind you can foil these. They have been printed on a laser printer, and you can foil them any color you like, and I always love to do that. I did not do that today since I liked the black, but that's a fun option as well. I'm using a T-square ruler to help me just line up where that phrase is going to go, and I am adhering it with foam adhesive. Let's take a look. That looks a little off, so I'm just going to peel it up. That looks off too. I haven't pressed it down really hard yet. That looks good, so we'll keep it right there. And there is our panel. Now, something I thought would be fun today is I did create a coordinating envelope from this. You're getting standard A2 size envelopes, several of them in the Spring Gnomes kit, but I grabbed one of my favorite Audrey Blue Slimline envelopes from Simon, and I am going to stamp several of the same images that I used on my card on this envelope using Simon Says Stamp Island Blue ink. Creating coordinating envelopes is something that I have really been into lately because I think it just adds that fun, whimsical flair. I'm really excited to send some of these out to people because I think that's a fun idea. I didn't do that for my second card, but probably before I send that one out, I'm going to stamp something on it so that it coordinates as well. So we've got our gnome with the wheelbarrow and then the big mushroom, and I am going to stamp the butterfly a couple of times. And that is going to finish up this first card set. So my cards today, while they're both slimline, are completely different. And I did that on purpose. I just wanted to try out some different things. This is Copic markers. It's landscape format. It was masking, stenciling, all that good stuff. This is going to be some no-line coloring, combining die cuts with some stamped images, no masking at all, and we're going to be using Tombow dual brush pens to color in everything. So starting out with the new Gnome Home die included in the kit, how awesome is this? The door opens if you want to create an interactive design. I opted not to today, but in the future I think I definitely will be using this interactively because I think it's really, really cute. I die cut my Gnome Home from some Arches Cold Press watercolor cardstock, and I'm coloring in the house with my Tombow dual brush pens and a water brush pen. And originally I thought I'd try to watercolor it almost like it's a stamped image, but then I thought, you know, it is die cut, so maybe I'll just take advantage of that. I put a little post-it tape on the back to hold it in place, but I opted to actually like pop out the stem of my Gnome Home, and I'm using burnt sienna and my other marker here to color around the edges just a little bit. And then we're going to take our water brush pen and pull that color out. And look how great the color looks. I just loved how this turned out. And the reason I chose to watercolor it instead of die cut it from multiple colors of cardstock is that I am going to be coloring in the images and the sentiment for my card with these markers, and I wanted everything to coordinate. The top of the house, I started with carmine red and then pink punch, and what actually ended up happening, I think it's too pinky for me. It ended up being too pinky, but I'm going to blend the color out and I'm going to let it completely dry, and I'm going to come back and add in some port red, which is a nice deep dark wine red, and that's going to help, I think, with the top of the house a bit. Get it a little bit more that color that I want it to look like. There's a lot of water here. I'm just going to kind of move that out of the way and clean up my glass work surface. I am cleaning up the glass work surface in between each watercoloring each image, so I'm not accidentally transferring that color to another area. So for the door of our Gnome Home, we're going to use a little chocolate and burnt sienna. I thought I would use my lighter color, and I started and I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. And so I actually just went back And we're going to add the chocolate back in around the edge and just kind of pull out the burnt sienna. The door frame, once the door is completely dry, we will color the door frame with our chocolate marker and the handle with a black. But we want to make sure we're not watercoloring anything that's right next to one another so that it doesn't accidentally bleed. So I'm definitely letting that sit and completely air drying. We're coloring in the windows with light orange and peach, which I know they both have an orange name to them, but I use these as yellows a lot. I like them for a bright yellow. So the insides of so it looks like the lights are on inside of our little gnome home. And then I thought I could color around the window frames with dark chocolate, but I was afraid I'd get it on the windows, so I'm going to pop all those pieces out. We'll have a little paper piecing to do when we're ready to assemble the card, but that's okay. And we're going to lay the color out, and then I did go over it with my water brush pen to really get the coverage nice. Let's do that again, and we can just use the Post-it tape to hold on to those little pieces so we don't lose them. Same thing goes for the spots or on the top of the mushroom house. I think our door is dry. We have the little under parts of our mushroom. Colored those quickly. And I also think the top of the mushroom house is dry. So this is where we're going to pull in a little bit of that port red, which is really dark to start with. And I was very messy with adding that color in. And then we're just going to start pulling the color out. And that is looking awesome. I scribbled a little bit of the color on my glass mat and I picked it up with my water brush pen to help blend it out even more. Now we're going to have to let that sit and completely dry, but I did all of the mushroom or gnome home first, mushroom house first, so that all of these would dry by the time I'm ready to put my card completely together. And I'm picking things up and moving them with some fine tip tweezers instead of my fingers to help keep my fingers out of that ink. Now I added a little black to the door handle and I got a little aggressive, so I actually just picked that up with a dry rag and I'm going to move that out of the way. I can add a little extra color later on. I am ready to add my panel. This panel is another one of the Hero Arts Slimline rectangle and bookmarks infinity dies. It's the size smaller than a slimline die. So I used the full slimline size 3.5 by 8.5 for the first card. This is one size smaller. It will leave a nice little border all the way around the panel. And I'm figuring out where I want my gnome and my sentiment from the Spring Gnomes stamp set to go on my card panel. Then I'm going to move them out of the way, ink up the phrase and the image with my Jellyfish No Line Coloring ink. This is an ink from Fawn. I've gotten a lot of questions about no line coloring ink lately. I almost probably 99.9% of the time anymore use the Fawn No Line Coloring ink. I really love it. And then I did just trace over the word sweet in the Gnome Sweet Gnome with a black pen because I want that to stand out and I didn't want to trace over it with a colorful marker. Now we're going to color in our images. So I've got a little coral and flesh for the nose of our gnome. I will use my water brush pen maybe a tiny bit, but not a lot. There's a lot of small space coloring and I don't want my color to bleed. Little baby pink and blender for the bottom of the bunny feet and the inside of the bunny ears. I love that this gnome is wearing like a little bunny costume. I think it's funny. I did use a little water there for the insides of the ears and the feet. And then I'm also working to not color right next to anything I've just colored because I don't want the color to bleed. We're going to work on the beard next. I did accidentally color over the arms of the outfit, and I imagined my gnome wearing an outfit and just has the bunny feet sticking out the bottom. And then he has the bunny ears on his hat. So I'm going to pick something darker once this has dried to color over the arms of his outfit, because I did get too aggressive with my grays. We're going to rainbow color in our sentiment while we let some of the areas on our gnome dry. Dry. Let's go with dry. And I am using rainbow again. So there's going to be our lavender, blue, kind of a turquoise, green, yellow, orange, red, and pink. I've listed the colors I'm using across the top of the screen. And again, you can find those on my blog post as well. Not adding water here. I was real afraid of making a mess. So just coloring, kind of tracing out with my darker color and blending with my lighter. And this is going to stand out really nice. Now, you might be saying, you didn't do any masking on this card, but yet it's got clouds in the background. I'm actually just going to stencil kind of carefully right around and over it without really masking. And you'll see that once I get all of the coloring done for the top portion of the card. If I can get away with it, and watercolor type markers are generally more forgiving and you can get away with it with them sometimes, I will just forego the masking. And I really prefer that because it speeds up the creation time quite a bit. But like I said, I really do love how the first card turned out. So while I might be complaining just a little bit about all that fussy cutting, it did turn out awesome and I love it. Once we have this, I think most of our gnome is dry and we can work on coloring in the rest of him. So we got the bunny ears and the bunny feet. We're going to use sand and light sand for those. No additional water, just kind of tracing out with sand, and then we're going to blend out with light sand. He's starting to come to life here. And then all those great colors I just used in the sentiment, we're also going to use for his hat, so it's really colorful. The carrot is chrome orange and bright orange. And then a little water brush pen. I did use a little water brush pen there. The hat is so many colors. I did list them. I know some of them might be kind of hard to read over anything white. But they are listed on my blog, and they've also been used in other areas on this for the most part. The green and Alice blue is what was used for this portion of for the main part of the hat as well as his outfit. And then we're gonna have yellow and orange and pink and purple and blue and green polka dots on his hat and a yellow brim on his hat. No water was added to any of these. Little pink flowery pom-pom. I really wanted to kind of bring the rainbow of the sentiment down to this image a little bit to tie it all together. And you might notice that I've cleaned my markers at the bottom part of this panel because it's going to be hidden behind the mushroom house, so I didn't worry about it. If I needed to clean the tip of my lighter marker, I just cleaned it right there. Just go in with a little bit of our chrome yellow and bright orange. The tips of, or the greenery on our carrot, light olive, and lemon lime. And then we're going to fix where I accidentally colored some of the gray beard for his sleeves with green, and Alice blue. I about gave the zig colors instead of the Tombow colors. That happens. So green and Alice blue. And then for the gloves he has on, we're going to just do bright or light orange, pardon me, and peach, which is the yellow colors. Then I'm going back with one of my warm gray markers, the warm gray 2, and I'm adding in some texture for his beard, some little lines, and I'm using the blender over those to blend that out just a little bit. And there is our great texture. And we're ready to start gluing the house in, or stenciling and then gluing the house in place. I did use a little Post-it tape over my gnome just to start with, but I am going to end up moving most of it, which you'll see as I stencil the cloudy sky. The butterflies I actually added later, mostly because as I got to that point, I realized I kind of felt like I needed a little something else to the top of the card, and then we are going to stamp and fussy cut another mushroom and a group of tulips to put down near the base of the house because there's so much going on in the upper part. I felt like the mushroom house was a little bit bland and needed dressed up. You can see I'm working mostly around anything I've colored and trying not to just really pounce the color on over it. I'm using those domed foam blending tips for my blending brushes. This is some Peacock Feathers Distress ink and the Lawn Fawn Cloudy stencil, and I'm simply rotating it as I add that all the way around. Now right here, I don't want that harsh edge of my Post-it tape, so I'm just going to remove that, put the stencil back in place. We're going to carefully try to fix that little area without coloring over the top too much. Just kind of go over each side real gently, gives that illusion. Same thing here. I will have to pop up the stencils here too, or stencils, the Post-it tape here as well. So he's kind of sitting in the clouds floating for right now. We're going to work our way almost down to the bottom, and then we're going to take the Rustic Wilderness ink and just kind of ink the bottom of the panel with the green Distress ink for that grassy type of look to finish off our scene. Kind of double checking, seeing if that's looking good. And then adding in our Rustic Wilderness ink right here. Now to glue the mushroom house down, I do need to start with the top so that it's put in the exact right place. And then we'll do the bottom. And because it's the watercolor cardstock and I added water, it was curling up a bit. So you're going to notice that I'm using some heavy acrylic blocks to set that on top and help hold it down and hold it in place while that glue dries. It works like a charm every time. Adding in these little undersides, kind of get all that, and then put our blocks down. We're going to add the door and the windows and then the little spots on the top of the mushroom. You can see the door has a little hinge. If you want to put something back behind there, maybe even a little hidden greeting, you can do that. I am not going to use it that way today, so we're just going to glue it straight down. Pop the windows in. The Post-it tape was holding on to all of our little pieces, which is handy. I didn't have to worry about them disappearing. and then the spots up at the top. So I feel like it needs a little bit more color up at the top, or a few more images, and that free or the single butterfly, pardon me, is perfect. And I really played around with maybe just stamping it once or twice, and I ended up doing 3. I love to have kind of the embellishment part of it in odd numbers, so I ended up doing 3 of those. We're going to color 1 blue, 1 purple, and 1 yellow. And we are going to want to use one of those spring gnome sentiment strips on this card as well. We'll get back to that in a minute. We're going to take a black fine tip pen, draw in the antennae for our butterflies, do a little N25 for the bodies of our butterflies. And then the first butterfly is bright blue, or pardon me, peacock blue and lilac. That's the purplish color. I know it's called peacock blue, but I like these colors for kind of that purplish shade. Then bright blue and aqua. These colors are directly from the letters from our Gnome Sweet Gnome. And then finally, we have a little light orange and peach. I also got my sentiment strip here. I'm going to put some foam adhesive on the back and pop that right up in place. And I'd only done the 2 butterflies, but I definitely felt like I needed a third. And really, really quick coloring to fix that, or to rectify that I needed 3 of them. And I like that. It feels balanced to me. The top part of the card definitely feels finished. However, I think the bottom, as much as I love the mushroom house, it definitely needs decorated. Don't you guys think? So we're going to add another little mushroom and then some tulips on either side. And we're even going to stamp and emboss a welcome sign right above the door. I didn't do that part on camera, but you'll see that in the final photo here at the end. And that's simply taking a great little sentiment from the Simon Says Stamp welcoming stamp set. It has a teeny tiny welcome that I felt worked perfectly right above the door. Coloring in these tulips and things. Now remember, I didn't have the dies at the time of filming this video. Probably would have die cut them otherwise. That goes for the gnome as well. I would have die cut him if I'd had that. Part of the reason I did not stamp and color him on a separate piece of paper is I was trying to get away from having to, because I'm stamping these on watercolor cardstock, which tends to be pretty thick. I don't always love how they cut out. And so I really just tried to not do that as much as possible, but I felt like we needed these additional images at the bottom of the card, and I think it rounds out and balances the design so well. So we've got our little mushroom guy here. We're going to color, and then I did fussy cut them, but I didn't cut right up next to the coloring. Instead, I left a little white outline all the way around, and I turned the paper, not my scissors, as I was cutting, and then I just really tried to go nice and slow with my fussy cutting so that I didn't bend the cardstock. There we go. And then I will cut those out and glue them down in place. We're going to attach them with the same Ranger multi-matte medium that we used for the rest of the design. I'm using my tweezers to hold on to them. Add a little glue. And then right down here near the base. And that one little thing just completes this whole scene for me. We're going to attach this whole panel to a slimline card base. And like I said, we are going to add that little welcome right above the door. I did curve it to kind of follow the curved edge of that door design. I stamped it with clear embossing ink, heat embossed with white embossing powder, and that finishes off my second card using the limited edition exclusive GNOME kit from Simon Says Stamp. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Simon Says Stamp products that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.